All right, back in the basement again today. I want to give a little bit of feedback on using a handler at a powerlifting meet. I talked about this just a little bit in my latest meet recap, and I got some people saying that they'd want to hear my feedback or opinion on using a handler. So for those of you that don't know, I've actually competed about 14 sanctioned meets up to this point, 2 of which I've used handlers, and 2 of which I would say is probably a really good meet experience overall. Now, I've had really good single meet experiences where I go in handling myself, if you will. I've also had really bad experiences handling myself, but typically I'm of the mindset of I train alone, I do everything alone. I'm just used to going in and I want to keep things as normal as possible heading into a meet. And that's usually my mindset, which means going in, handling myself, warming up myself, getting ready myself. But what I've come to find out is maybe that's not the best approach, or maybe it's not what it seems, because when I come down here by myself and train, I am very low stress. Now, obviously I get some anxiety when it's like a really heavy lift or something like that else is going on, but coming down here to lift is somewhere where I can kind of disconnect my mind a little bit and just put the work in, if you will. Now, when it comes to actually competing in a meet, I get a lot of anxiety leading up to the meet. Am I strong enough? How are my attempts going to go? Am I going to get flagged for depth? And even the day of the meet itself, that can be pretty tough. Timing warm up so that you're ready to go for that first attempt is really difficult. You got to pay attention to the flight order, where things are going, when to take certain attempts for your warm-ups, how to space those out, as well as listening for when your name is called or putting in attempts and things like that. So in reality, what I've noticed is a lot of that anxiety and stress that I get at a meet is stuff that I'm putting on myself. And where I've really enjoyed having a handler is they take a lot of those things off of my plate, meaning that I can just go in, listen to music, zone out, and lift when I'm supposed to. And I'm going to rely on that handler to be able to tell me when to take certain warm-ups. Tell me when I'm next up or need to go get ready to go and lift. Be the one who's maybe a little bit more subjective and objective when it comes to my actual attempt selections, because for me, every attempt feels heavy. Even my openers oftentimes feel heavy. And if I'm by myself, I will probably lower my attempts each time, even though things moved really well. I can't tell because I'm not watching film like I might be able to if I'm training at home. So I can rely on a handler to make the best informed decision for me. And what I found is using a handler really eradicates all of that anxiety that I've had and puts me in the most normal mindset possible, which has led again to some really good overall meet experiences. Now, normally if you're going to go for a handler, it's probably or ideally someone that is doing your coaching or programming or is really familiar with your lifting, because again, they are going to know you a little bit better in terms of how you normally operate on a day-to-day basis, how you handle heavier loads, can you grind out certain lifts, what your fatigue management is like. And taking that information into a meet is going to be really, really helpful because again, they can make the best informed decisions. Now in my case, for this last meet, I had actually never met the person that handled me before. His name is Skylar. He's actually with Game Day Barbell. And I got linked up with him because my first handler was Joe Sanic, who actually used to work for TSA and now is one of the head coaches at Game Day Barbell. Joe has been a friend for a long, long time. And I reached out to him and said, hey, do you have anyone on your staff available to help me at nationals? I think it would be my best interest to kind of use a handler for this meet. He recommended Skylar, and it was a really good experience because again, I went in and was able to completely disconnect. I could leave my headphones on, and the only time I took them off were to maybe just talk a little bit of strategy or to just go out and actually do my attempts. And I kind of prepped Skylar in advance. We had been talking and conversing on Instagram about what my attempts were going to be, what my warm-ups were probably going to be, what my goals were for the meet. That way, day of the meet, when things maybe I feel heavy or slow or whatever, he knows that the game plan is a certain thing and he can kind of guide my expectations accordingly. And obviously it went really, really well for me. And if I can do it going forward, I'm going to aim to always try to get a handler, just because taking all that anxiety and stress off me lets me again have a really good focused meet. Now, in terms of cost, I think this is going to vary. I think if you're paying for coaching already, this is something that your coach should help you with at no additional cost. Obviously, a lot of telecoaching these days where your coach isn't readily available. Hopefully they can help you source someone somewhat local. And even for me, for Skylar, for example, he didn't really have a fee. I said, I'm willing to pay you for this. And he said, I don't charge people for this service because it's people that I coach. And I said, I want to give you something. So I actually paid for his coaching fees for the day, which were like $80, rounded up to $100 just for his time and effort. And to me, it was money well spent. In other cases, it might be free for you. It might be an additional charge. I would research it. But again, if you have someone that maybe is not coaching you, or you're not doing any kind of coaching where someone can help refer you to someone, ask one of your friends, one of your gym partners, somebody that is, again, familiar with your lifting, have a game plan going in, talk about strategy. That way at the day of the meet, you can kind of relax and just kind of let things go, let someone else handle that, and just focus on your main attempts. Now, if you've used a handler before, good experience or not, please let me know in the comment section below. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.